Hello everyone, I'm Mom from Millennial and Mom, and today is story time. Now, I have been thinking about doing story time for quite a while. What made me think of doing story time was our reviews of Ready to Love, and some of the cast members, especially one, really told the story of something that I have gone through, and I really connected with her with this. So when I get into story time, you'll see what I mean. I ended up being engaged at the age of 18. No, I wasn't pregnant at the same time. When I was younger, or even at Millennial's age, Cassandra, I had 2 kids by then. But I was also more strong-willed, more, no one could tell me nothing. So even though that's not necessarily the best way to go about things, that's what brought me around to being married and thought that's what I want to do at such a young age. So let me tell you how we met. Now, it was actually in high school. I was in the 9th grade. He was in the 12th grade. And hindsight is 2020 because I believe he may have repeated a grade because he was way older than he should have been then. Because back when I was in high school here in town, there was such a thing called the 5-year plan. And you can be in high school, which was kind of like all the way up to like the time you were like 19, aged out before you were 20. So that's how I met him. And of course, a younger girl with an older guy, at least with me and my friends, is like, oh, okay, so-and-so likes you. Okay, that makes you like big kid on campus or big time on campus. So as time went on, I was a sophomore, and then there was a break when I became a junior. Nothing, because again, he aged out, graduated, did whatever he was going to do, went on with live work, things like that. And then when I became a senior, then it was open campuses. Now, I'm not sure if it's open campuses now still when there is school without the C-19 going on, but people were just allowed to come up to school. And one day, someone came up to me and tapped me on the shoulder, and lo and behold, that's who it was. I was like, what? Like, what are you doing here? It was like, I don't know what it was, but it just brought things all the way back. And of course, by that time I was a senior in high school, you think of plans of what you're going to do, stuff like that. I already had plans of going to the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, or University of Arizona. Whoever accepted me first, that's where I was going. But overall, I decided to stay in town to go to school. And I, at the time, was going to pursue a psychology degree. Now, that got turned to the left, and I'll tell you more about that as that comes along. So saying all that, next thing that came about was I was asked to get married. Now, where did this engagement happen? Now, it wasn't anything someone could consider romantic. It wasn't anything considered grand or anything like that. It was on his mom's couch. Right, on his mom's couch. And you know what? I said yes because me and my friends at the time had this thinking. Again, I was 18 years old. Who was going to get married first? I mean, that was on our minds. Like, who was getting married first? Yes, we were going to college too, but who's going to have the biggest wedding, stuff like that? And you know who got married first? That would be me. How do you think that worked out with my parents and my family? They did not want me to get married. They're like, what are you talking about? You're too young, this and that. And as strong-willed, strong-minded I was then, I'm still a little strong-willed now, but not as hard-headed as I was then. I was like, I'm getting married anyways. Doesn't matter what you're going to do. I mean, it was still here in Vegas, and at 18, you can get married anywhere, right? So they came around, everyone came around. Then 3 months after I turned 19, I got married. It was a grand wedding. It was what I thought it would be. It was a big one. All my friends were there. I think they had a little haterade, but really, like I said, hindsight's 2020. Weren't no haterade going on looking back. But it was everything it was supposed to be. But the thing was, at the wedding, there was alcohol and stuff like that. But, my parents, still to this day, don't know I take a little sip or two. I had to have non-alcoholic champagne. Of course I did, right? Because I'm under the age of 21. Everyone else, except my friends, were 21, so they were having a good time. And we were just there drinking non-alcoholic champagne. Did you all even know there was such a thing? There is. Not to mention, The day I got married was actually the first time I even left home. I went from home in the limo to the church as a newlywed. So some of you may be thinking, what? Mom got married at 19, but won't let Millennial or Cassandra go on a Married at First Sight? No, I won't. So I'm married now, 19, 3 months after my 19th birthday, settling in. It was different because, again, I was used to being at home. I was used to just doing whatever. I'm not saying I couldn't do whatever being married because, he was an easygoing guy. There was no real problems, but I can tell you that he really wanted a baby. And I was like, no, it's too soon for a baby. We just got married. Like, what do you want a baby for? No, I just really want a baby. We should start a family. I'm like, no, we don't need to start a family for what? So I said, we can try. Now, this was 6 months into the wedding. We can try it. I said, we'll try for like 3 days. And if I don't get pregnant after that time, then we're not going to try again until next year. You know what happened? I got pregnant. Like within that 3-day period, like right away. I'm not going to say I was hurt because I knew it was coming. But the point is like, wow, this just goes to show how naive you can be at 18. Now, I know everyone is not as naive, but I was naive in some areas, very strong-willed, very smart in other areas. Now, we're getting along fine. And then when I'm about 5 months pregnant with my son, we didn't have problems, but that's when I realized to myself, this is not where I need to be. This is not my life. Yes, I envisioned getting married, but not now. Like, what was I thinking? What was I doing? But being pregnant, you don't want to give people, meaning my family, the impression that, yeah, you are right. Because I didn't want them to think they was right. Like, what? How did I look? They was right. So one day I had a conversation with my mom, and then she always passes the phone to my dad. And my dad says something to me, 2 things. And he said one of these things to me twice, and that'll be in another story time. You won't be the first, and you won't be the last, and everyone makes mistakes. If you need to come home, come home. And I thought to myself, that's good to know. I knew I could always come home, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to stick it out because maybe this was pregnancy hormones talking, because I had some older friends too, from work and school thinking, oh, you just think that way because you're pregnant. Honestly, I didn't think so. And once time went on, I knew it wasn't. I knew that I made a mistake at a young age, but didn't want to correct it because of my own pride in the way. So some of you know about those shows in the day, the old school shows that's still oldies but goodies, the Jerry Springers, the Maury's, with the paternity test, and just all these things about, if you're a single mom, like how all that was just like a stigma then. It's not as much as open now, like baby daddy, baby mama, but then like I didn't want to be known as a baby mama and all this other stuff, Then my parents were married over 20 years. Now they've been married over 50 plus years. And also, like I said, looking back, that hindsight was 2020. I should have made up my mind when I first thought about it the first time that this wasn't where I needed to be. So while I was, pregnant and growing bigger and bigger every day, then I had way more friends than I had now. Well, people who I thought were friends. But yeah, as you get older, you realize that friends are really far and few between. So one day there was a knock on the door. You never guess who it was. It was the best man from the wedding. We'll call him Pt. Pt was out on the creep. Not only was he trying to creep, I was pregnant, so he thought he'd maybe get a little taste and leave no evidence because I was already pregnant. But Pt already had a girlfriend at home who had just had a baby. And he wanted to know about my maid of honor at the wedding, who was actually not my maid, my matron of honor at the wedding, who was married, who also at the time had a roving eye. So, I'll get more into detail about Pt later because he was something else. Pt comes up quite a bit as time goes on. So now I give birth to my first child, a boy. We call him CJ, and things were back on track. There was no real issues. There was no arguing. I just knew for me that I was in a different place or space than I needed to. But I kept on with the marriage and the family and what I thought people wanted to see, or really it was what I thought people wanted to see. And things were going fine. And once again, that, do I really want to be here? And I kept getting convinced by my friends, yeah, you do. Like, what's wrong with you? This is what you wanted. But you know, when you know, you know. So with CJ's first year of life, I was like, you know what? I already put college on hold for a semester. So I thought, I'm going to go back when he's 6 months old. I'm going to just start everything up when he's 6 months old. Well, you know what happened? I didn't go back when he was 6 months old. I went back when CJ was 2 years old. But when I went back for a whole different program. I actually went to the medical field, which is something I didn't even think about doing. Now, originally, I wanted to be a PhD in psychology, but I ended up going to nursing school because during that time, my dad had his first heart scare, like a heart attack. And during that time, I was like, maybe I need to change my profession. And that's when I did that. So as CJ got older, you know, he used to come to school with me and things like that. And the marriage was still going. It was going with the flow. There was no real major issues going on. It was just me, just not being happy, just not being fulfilled in what I wanted to do, where I thought my destiny was. It was real strong for me knowing that this is somewhere I didn't want to be. And at the same time, I was thinking this is so unfair for my son to like give up the family that he knows, me and his dad, and just the dynamic behind that. So, you know, having been in this mindset for so long, now CJ is 3 years old. And I'm just like, you know what? I have to have happiness for me. It's just time to go. I know that, you know, maybe his dad wouldn't necessarily want me to go, I guess, because, you know, he was still telling me words of affirmation, but I just wasn't feeling it. Now, even though I was still doing all the things I was supposed to do or felt I should be doing as a wife with the sexual things, and of course as a mom, I had already talked to my parents previously about, you know what, this time has gone on. CJ's 2, going on 3. I'm still just not happy from within. I know, again, this is not where I'm supposed to be. I think I'm just going to go ahead and file for divorce. That's what I'm going to do. They're like, well, you know, if that's what you're going to do, we're behind you. Find out how much it costs, and if you need some help getting it done, we'll go ahead and get it done. No problem. I was actually going to look up divorce lawyers the next day or two. So later that week, or it could have been the same evening, here he comes. You know, he wants to have romantic, intimate time. So I'm like, okay, I'll go ahead and do it because why not, I guess, right? So while we're doing what we're doing, I'm thinking to myself, what if he gets me pregnant? So then, boom. Okay, so stay tuned for part 2 of Storytime. Thank you so much for watching my first ever Storytime. So please comment down below and tell me what you thought about Storytime, or if you had anything like this to happen to you, or maybe something you want to share. We could talk about it on upcoming videos, upcoming lives. But make sure you subscribe and hit that like button for all our videos. Don't forget to watch Ready for Love. Our videos are out on Saturdays. And thank you for watching. And as always, live simply, be grateful.